Hey guys, tonight we take you back to a world of gilded halls and velvet thrones, not for power or glory, but for the quiet ache of being royal without ever wearing the crown. Imagine this. You wake up in a room lined with silk drapes, sunlight filtering through stained glass that paints your walls in colors most people will never see in real life. You stretch beneath embroidered sheets, knowing full well that your name is etched into history books, but not as the one who ruled. You're a prince, yes, but not the prince. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Because no matter how far apart we are, tonight we're all drifting off to the same story. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you remember is the weight of expectations. Not yours. Those came later. The first thing you felt was the pressure of lineage, of names whispered behind, closed doors, of decisions made long before you took your first breath. You were born second, or third, maybe even fourth. It doesn't really matter which, because in royal families, birth order isn't just about who gets the toy first. It's about destiny. Historians still debate whether royal siblings truly loved each other, or if affection was just another performance required by the court. Some argue that genuine bonds did form, despite the politics. Others say every hug, every shared glance was calculated. It doesn't really matter which, because in royal families, birth order isn't just about who gets the toy first, it's about destiny. Historians still debate whether royal siblings truly loved each other or if affection was just another performance required by the court. Some argue that genuine bonds did form despite the politics. Others say every hug, every shared glance was calculated. Tonight, as you walk the corridors of memory, you'll feel both truths pressing against your ribs. You weren't raised like normal children. There were no backyard games, no bedtime stories whispered by tired parents. Instead, you learned etiquette before you could tie your own shoes. You curtsied or bowed before you could run. Your toys were replicas of swords and scepters, and your lullabies were recitations of treaties and alliances. Even your playmates were chosen for you, children of nobles whose families wanted favor, or foreign diplomats' sons and daughters sent to learn your language and customs. Every friendship was a potential alliance, every betrayal a stepping stone. And yet somehow, you found joy. A stolen hour in the gardens, a laugh shared behind, a tapestry, a secret game played in the stables when no one was watching. Those moments were yours. Small, fragile things tucked away like hidden treasures. Still, you knew your place. You were never meant to rule. That right belonged to someone else, the heir, the golden child, the one everyone watched with bated breath. While they were trained to govern, you were taught to serve, to advise, to support, to disappear if necessary. It wasn't fair. But fairness has no place in royal bloodlines. You grew up watching your sibling prepare for greatness, wondering if anyone would ever look at you that way, wondering if you'd ever be more than just a spare, a backup plan, a placeholder. And then, one day, something changed. Maybe your older brother fell ill. Maybe he died unexpectedly. Maybe he proved unworthy. And suddenly all eyes turned to you, eyes filled with hope, suspicion, and fear. Or maybe nothing changed at all. Maybe you lived your whole life in the shadow of the throne, never touching its edge, never tasting its power. Either way, your story is one of longing, duty, and the quiet tragedy of being royal. But never king. You wake up one morning and realize that your life has already been decided for you. There's no rebellion, no dramatic escape, just the quiet certainty that every step you take was mapped out before you were born. You're not the heir, so you don't get to choose your path. You serve. That's what spare princes do. Breakfast is a formal affair. You sit at a long table with your family, surrounded by attendants who watch your every move. No slouching, no speaking out of turn, no asking questions. The heir eats first, then everyone else follows in order of rank. You're somewhere near the middle, neither ignored nor fully seen. Your tutors arrive soon after. They are strict, often humorless, and always watching. You study languages, philosophy, history, and military tactics, not because anyone expects you to rule, but because knowledge makes you useful. A well-educated prince can be sent on diplomatic missions, represent the crown abroad, or advise his brother when needed. But usefulness comes at a cost. There's no time for play, no room for mistakes. Every lesson is a test, every slip-up noted. You learn early that failure isn't an option, it's a disappointment, and disappointments echo through palace halls louder than footsteps. Even your friendships are monitored. You're allowed companions, but they're carefully selected. Some are children of nobles whose families want favor. Others are foreign students sent to learn your customs. You suspect some of them are spies, though you never say it out loud. Trust is dangerous here. Still, you find small ways to rebel. A mischievous glance across the dining hall, a secret note passed behind a tutor's back, a whispered joke during Latin lessons. These tiny acts of defiance keep you human, remind you that you have thoughts of your own, even if no one ever asks for them. And then there's the training, dance lessons, fencing, horseback riding. You must be graceful, agile, strong. Not because you need these skills to survive, but because you must appear worthy. A royal spare must look capable, even if he'll never lead. It's exhausting. Some days, you wish you could vanish into the streets, live as someone ordinary, but that's just fantasy. You know the truth. You were born into duty, and duty will follow you until the day you die. You start your lessons early in the morning, just as the sun begins to rise over the palace rooftops. There's no time for grogginess, no room for laziness. A royal spare must be sharp, alert, and disciplined. You walk through candle-lit corridors, guided by the soft echo of your footsteps, until you reach the study chamber. The tutor is already there, waiting with a stack of books and a look that means business. Today's lessons begin with Latin, the language of scholars, of laws, of diplomacy. You recite sentences with careful pronunciation, but your mind wanders. What would it be like to speak only what you feel instead of what you're told? Next comes geography. You memorize borders, kingdoms, and trade routes, not because you'll ever travel them yourself, but because knowledge of the world makes you useful in court discussions. Then philosophy, Plato, Aristotle, Cicero, all voices. From the past whispering advice you'll never be asked to give. Afternoon brings military strategy. You learn about ancient battles, siege techniques, and the art of command, even though you'll never lead an army. It's all preparation for something you may never need. Still you listen, you nod, you take notes, because that's what you were trained to do. The sun has long set, and the palace glows in the warm flicker of candlelight. Dinner was formal as always, seated in your usual place, nodding at conversations you weren't truly part of. Now, though, you find yourself summoned to a private chamber. Your father, the king, awaits you. You enter slowly, bowing deeply before straightening your back and meeting his gaze. He doesn't smile, but he doesn't frown either. His expression is unreadable, like the pages of an old book written in a language you've almost mastered. "You're growing into a fine young man," he says, voice calm, measured. You wait for the but. "There's talk," he continues, folding his hands on the table between you, "about your recent behavior, your fencing skills, your opinions in court discussions. You keep your face neutral, though your pulse quickens. I know what it's like to want more than your station." "Allows," he says, But ambition without direction is dangerous. He leans forward slightly. You will marry soon. It's not a question. Already arrangements have been made. A foreign princess, distant but well-connected. A match designed not for love but for politics. You feel the weight of it settle over you. Not just the duty, but the finality. This is not a choice. This is another role to play. You bow again, murmur your thanks, and leave the room with steady steps, even though inside something cracks. Later that night, you stare out the window, watching lanterns flicker across the city below. Somewhere out there, people live lives they chose for themselves. You were never given that luxury. And now, even your heart may not be your own. In Section 5, the clash of wooden swords echoes through the garden, sharp and rhythmic like a heartbeat. You move with more confidence than you expected. Years of fencing lessons buried beneath layers of routine suddenly surface. Your brother is better, of course, faster, stronger, more experienced, but you hold your own. For a moment you forget who you are, or rather who you're supposed to be. You're not just the spare, not just the shadow. For now, you're his equal. Then it happens, a feint, a twist, a slip on the gravel. In an instant you're on the ground, your sword knocked aside, your pride bruised but intact. Your brother extends a hand, smiling, not with mockery, but something closer to affection. You take it, letting him pull you up. And just like that, the moment passes. But later, as you walk back toward the palace, you hear whispers, servants talking in hushed voices, courtiers exchanging knowing glances. Did you see how he almost won? He's getting better. Maybe too good. You pretend not to hear, but every word sticks like burrs in your cloak. Historians still debate whether royal siblings truly loved each other, or if every gesture was calculated. Tonight you wonder if your brother saw you as a rival, or if he already sees you that way. Either way, you know one thing for certain. You were never meant to win. Word count, 1078. The sun has long set, and the palace glows in the warm flicker of candlelight. Dinner was formal as always, seated in your usual place, nodding at conversations you weren't truly part of. Now, though, you find yourself summoned to a private chamber. Your father, the king, awaits you. You enter slowly, bowing deeply before straightening your back and meeting his gaze. He doesn't smile, but he doesn't frown either. His expression is unreadable, like the pages of an old book written in a language you've almost mastered. You're growing into a fine young man, he says, voice calm, measured. You wait for the but. There's talk, he continues, folding his hands on the table between you, about your recent behavior, your fencing skills, your opinions in court discussions. You keep your face neutral, though your pulse quickens. I know what it's like to want more than your station allows, he says. But ambition without direction is dangerous. He leans forward slightly. You will marry soon. It's not a question. Already, arrangements have been made. A foreign princess, distant but well-connected. A match designed not for love, but for politics. You feel the weight of it settle over you, not just the duty, but the finality. This is not a choice. This is another role to play. You bow again, murmur your thanks, and leave the room with steady steps, even though inside something cracks. Later that night, you stare out the window, watching lanterns flicker across the city below. Somewhere out there, people live lives they chose for themselves. You were never given that luxury. And now, even your heart may not be your own. You walk through the palace gardens, your boots crunching softly on the gravel path. The air smells of blooming jasmine and freshly cut grass. It's a beautiful day, but beauty doesn't ease the weight in your chest. You're not alone, never truly are. But today, you pretend to be. A royal spare is always watched, always followed by distant eyes and careful ears. Even your solitude is curated. In front of you, your older brother practices fencing with a master swordsman. He moves with precision, his blade flashing under. The afternoon sun. You watch from a distance, admiring not just his skill, but the certainty he carries. He knows where he stands. He knows who he is. You? Not so much. He catches sight of you and waves you over. "Come on," he says, tossing you a wooden sword. "Let's see if all those lessons stuck." You catch it easily, despite never having trained seriously. There's no pressure here, it's just for fun. Still, something inside you tightens. This is a game, yes, but games have rules, and unspoken ones at that. You raise the sword. He smiles, and then the clash begins. The battlefield is nothing like the stories. There's no grand music swelling in the background, no banners waving proudly in the wind. Just mud, blood, and the distant cries of men who may not live to see tomorrow. You weren't meant to be here. Not really, but your brother insisted. "You must understand," he said before sending you to the front lines, "what it means to lead, even if you never do." So here you are, not commanding, not strategizing, just watching. A nobleman rides past on a white stallion, shouting orders with the confidence of someone who has never truly feared death. You sit beside a soldier named Elias, chewing dry bread and staring at the horizon. "You nervous?" he asks. You hesitate. "I don't know," you say. "I've never done this before." He chuckles, shaking his head. "None of us have, not really." When the battle begins, it doesn't start with a trumpet or a war cry. It starts with silence, then shouting, steel clashing against steel, the scream of an arrow slicing through air. Chaos erupts around you, but you stay still. Elias fights beside you, moving with the desperate grace of a man who knows every swing could be his last. You try to keep up, you raise your sword, you block, you strike. But it's clumsy, unnatural. This was never your place. Later, when the dust settles and the dead are counted, you'll tell yourself that you fought bravely, that you did what was asked of you. But tonight, as you sit beneath a flickering torch, washing blood from your hands, you wonder, was this bravery or just obedience wearing armor? Historians still debate whether royal spares who fought were heroes or symbols. Tonight you feel like neither. You were there. You survived. And yet, something inside you didn't make it off the field. You return from the battlefield changed, though no one seems to notice. The palace still gleams under candlelight. The servants still move in perfect silence. Life continues, as if you hadn't stared into the face of death and blinked. Your brother greets you with a firm handshake and a nod. No more, no less. "You did well," he says, "that's all. No parade, no medal. Just another day in the life of a royal spare, but something has shifted inside you. You are not one of them, but for the first time, you see them. And that changes everything. You begin to notice things you never paid attention to before. The way farmers look at the sky before planting. The way mothers whisper prayers when their children fall ill. The way soldiers speak in hushed tones about battles they'll never be honored for. You try to speak of it once, at dinner, in passing, to your advisors. They smile politely and change the subject. You learn quickly. No one wants to hear what a spare prince has seen. They only want to know what he can do. And even then, only if it serves the crown. Still, you hold on to those memories like quiet secrets, because for the first time, you feel something deeper than duty. A connection. One that doesn't come from bloodlines or titles, but from shared experience. It's fragile, fleeting, but it's yours. It starts with a whisper, a single quiet word exchanged between courtiers in the candlelit halls. Nothing official, nothing written down, just the kind of rumor that spreads like fire through dry grass, silent, fast, and unstoppable. Your brother is ill. At first, it's nothing serious, or so they say. A fever, a touch of weakness, nothing that won't pass with rest and time, but then the days stretch into weeks. The royal physicians come and go, their faces growing more drawn with each visit. Herbs are brewed, incantations whispered. Still, he does not rise from his bed. You watch from the edge of the room, unseen but present. You don't speak. You don't ask questions. But you feel something stir inside you, something you're ashamed to name. Hope. Not for your brother's suffering, never that, but for what might come after. The thought sickens you. You push it away, bury it beneath layers of duty and denial. You pray for his recovery. You sit by his bedside, reading to him when he can still listen. You hold his hand when the pain is too great for words. And yet, the feeling doesn't leave. It lingers in the silence between heartbeats, in the way people look at you now, not just with respect, but with possibility. Historians still debate whether royal spares ever truly wished for their brother's downfall. Tonight, you wonder if the wish was made before you even knew it existed. Then, one morning, the castle wakes to silence. The king's voice does not call for breakfast. The servants do not prepare his bath. No footsteps echo outside his chamber. You know before anyone tells you. When the door opens, you walk in slowly. He looks smaller than he ever did in life, pale. Still, they will call it illness. Some say grief played its part. Others will whisper of poison, of curses, of fate finally catching up. You don't care about the cause. All you know is that the world has shifted beneath your feet and you are standing on the edge of something. New outside, bells begin to ring. Someone says your name, not as a spare, not as a shadow, as a king. The crown is heavier than you expected, not in weight, though the gold and jewels press down on your brow like a silent reminder, but in meaning. In consequence, they place it on your head with ceremony, hands steady but eyes watchful. No one speaks of doubt, but you feel it in the air, thick as incense. You are king now, but not because you were chosen, because someone else was taken. The throne room is silent as you take your seat. Not out of respect, but uncertainty. The same people who once ignored your opinions now wait for your every word. You speak. Voices murmur approval, heads nod. But behind their eyes, something shifts. Calculations, questions, hidden fears. Is this what your brother felt? Did he sense the walls closing in before he ever sat where you sit now? There is no time to mourn, not truly. The kingdom does not pause for grief. Papers must be signed, laws reviewed, advisors consulted. Your first decree is simple. Allow your brother's body to rest undisturbed, his memory honored without spectacle. Some whisper that it is weakness. Others call it mercy, you don't care which. For the first time, you make a choice that is truly yours. And yet, the feeling doesn't bring relief. It brings more weight, more expectation, more silence. You walk through the palace halls later that night alone for once. The portraits of past kings stare down at you, their painted eyes unreadable. Did they feel this way too? Or did they welcome the power, embrace the throne like an old friend? You want to believe you are ready. You spent your whole life preparing for someone else. Now you wear the crown meant for them and wonder if it will fit. The court watches you like a candle in the wind, waiting to see if you'll flicker or burn steady. At first, they test you gently. Small disagreements brought to your attention, requests framed as suggestions. A subtle dance of power played. Out behind polite smiles and lowered eyes, you answer carefully. You listen more than you speak. You nod, you consider, you delay decisions just long enough to make them wonder if you know more than you let on. But soon, the pressure builds. Ministers begin to push harder. Advisors argue louder. Some challenge you outright. Others whisper doubts in corners, hoping the rumors reach your ears. They want to know who you are. Are you your brother's shadow still, or something new, something dangerous? Even the nobles, who once ignored you, now seek your favor. Gifts appear at your door. Letters find their way to your desk. Pleas for land, titles, forgiveness. You learn quickly that power is not given. It is taken, again and again, and those who gave it to you can take it back. One night you sit alone in your chambers, staring at the seal before you. a symbol of authority, cold and unmoving. A knock at the door. It's Elias, the soldier you fought beside. He bows, but there's something in his stance that wasn't there before. "I have news," he says, voice low. You motion for him to continue. "There are whispers in the city," he tells you. "Some say you don't belong on the throne. That you were never meant to rule." You feel the words settle deep in your chest. Not surprise, not fear, just recognition. Because you felt it too, that quiet doubt. The one that creeps in during sleepless nights, when the crown feels less like a symbol and more like a mistake. Still, you hold your face still. Your voice remains calm. "Let them whisper," you say. "I will decide what kind of king I am." Elias studies you for a moment, then nods. He leaves, and you sit in silence, listening to the weight of your own breath. Because you know the truth now. Being royal was never about birthright. It was always about belief, and belief can be lost or stolen. The whispers grow louder. What once lingered in corners now spreads through the palace like smoke, silent, unseen, but always present. Some call you a usurper. Others whisper of rightful heirs yet to rise. A few speak of your brother's ghost, watching from the shadows, waiting for justice. You hear it all, though no one dares say it to your face. Elias brings you news each night, what the people say in the streets, what the nobles argue behind closed doors, what the soldiers murmur around their fires. "There are those who would see you fall," he warns one evening, voice low. You nod slowly. "I know. It is not arrogance, not fear. It is simply truth. And truth, you've learned, is the sharpest blade of all. Still, you must act. Not with swords, not with war, but with strategy, with silence, with patience. You begin to move pieces on the board, carefully, deliberately. You grant lands to loyal lords. You remove ministers who hesitate too long before swearing allegiance. You watch, you listen, you wait. But not all threats come from men in robes and crowns. Some come from within. Late one night, as rain taps gently against your window, you find yourself staring at your reflection in the dark glass. Who are you? Are you still the spare prince who once watched his brother from afar? Or have you truly become king? The crown sits heavy on your head, not from weight, but from meaning. You remember the lessons, the battles, the quiet moments in the garden, the stolen hours in the stables, the secret notes passed beneath tutors' eyes. All of it led here. But was it destiny, or just inevitability? You think of your brother, of the way he looked at you when he tossed you that wooden sword, of the way he smiled, not with mockery, but something closer to affection. Did he ever believe you could be more than a spare? Did you close your eyes, and for the first time since the crown was placed on your head, you allow yourself a single thought. Maybe you don't want this anymore. The realization doesn't come as a shock. It comes as a sigh, as a slow exhale of breath held for far too long. You were never meant to rule, and maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to stay. You begin to see the palace not as a home, but as a cage. The walls that once felt grand now press in. The corridors that once echoed with history now feel like paths leading nowhere. Even the gardens, the one place where you once found peace, seem smaller, tighter, as if the world itself is shrinking around you. You try to ignore it at first. You throw yourself into ruling, reviewing laws, signing decrees, meeting with advisors. You speak with confidence, act with purpose, but beneath your composed exterior something cracks. It's not just the pressure of rule, it's the silence. No one speaks their true thoughts. No one dares question you openly. Everyone watches, waiting for a mistake. And when none come, they wait longer. Even Elias, your only voice of truth, has grown quieter. He still brings you news, still warns you of whispers and plots, but his words are measured now, careful, as if he too fears what might happen should he say too much. You miss the battlefield, not the blood, not the screams, but the clarity. There, you knew your place. You fought beside men who called you by name, not title. You were not watched. You were seen. Now you are always watched, but never truly known. One evening, as the sun dips below the horizon and the sky turns deep purple, you find yourself standing at the edge of the castle wall. Below, the city stretches out in flickering lights and winding streets. Life moves on without you. You imagine walking those streets, speaking freely, laughing without calculation, being someone else. You wonder how easy it would be to disappear, to leave the crown behind, to walk away from duty, from expectation, from the throne. Would anyone stop you? Would anyone even notice? You don't know, but the thought lingers, and for the first time since becoming king, you allow yourself to consider it, not as treason, not as weakness, but as possibility. What if you left? What if you vanished into the night and let someone else take your place? Would the kingdom fall, or would it simply adjust, as kingdoms always do? You turn away from the edge, not because you've made a decision, but because you finally understand. You are not the only one who wears a mask. The kingdom does too. The decision comes not with a shout, but with a whisper. It's not dramatic. No thunder cracks across the sky. No banners are torn down in protest. Just a quiet moment, alone in your chambers, when you finally say it out loud. I don't want this anymore. The words hang in the air like mist over water, soft, unseen, but real. You expected guilt. You expected fear. Instead, there is only relief. You write the letter slowly, carefully choosing each word. Not an abdication, not a surrender, but a stepping back, a release. You name no successor. You do not declare a new ruler. You simply leave the door open, letting the kingdom decide what comes next. Elias reads it once, then again, as if searching for hidden meaning. You're really doing this, he says, voice low. You nod. I was never meant to rule. He doesn't argue. Instead, he folds the letter and leaves to deliver it himself. That night, you pack lightly, just enough to survive, not enough to be recognized. No crown, no royal seal, no farewell, just boots on stone floors, a hood pulled low, and the slow creak of the castle gate behind you. The city sleeps as you walk its streets, not as a king, not as a prince, but as nothing at all. You feel lighter with every step. The weight that once pressed down on your chest begins to lift. The mask slips away piece by piece until there's nothing left but you, just a man, tired and free. You find yourself at the edge of the kingdom, where the paved roads turn. The dirt and the walls of the palace fade into the trees. You look back once, not with regret, not with longing, just recognition. This was never your place, and maybe, just maybe, it never was. You keep walking. The wind carries no titles. The stars shine for everyone. And for the first time in your life, you are not defined by birth, by duty, or by blood. You are simply yourself. Historians will debate your choice for centuries. Some will call it cowardice, others wisdom. But none of it matters now, because history will forget you soon enough. And that, you realize, is the greatest freedom of all. Help our channel if you liked it. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. It's free. Thank you.